Would you believe it? It is that time of the year once again. Happy New Year to those of you who are already in 26, and also Happy New Year to those of you about to be in 2026. As always, for the last couple of years, I round off my content on YouTube with a big review of the games I played in 2025, the ones I liked and the ones I didn't. And it's always a mix of games that came out this year, as well as things that have released previously that I finally got around to playing or finishing, or anything in between. I did this once before in 2023 on the now defunct second channel, which has been dead for about a year and a half. Probably won't ever come back. Who knows, maybe I'll go back on that. And then I also did it on this channel in 2024. Both of those will be linked in the description if you want to go and watch them. But the usual drill applies, going through every game, giving my overall general thoughts. It's not going to be in depth for any of them, and based on the list I've got this year, it's going to be quite quick for a lot of them, because I went into this video thinking it was going to be the shortest of the three. I'm pretty sure it's going to end up being the longest, because the list of games I want to talk about is going onto a second page, so maybe I'll cut some out if they're not as relevant, or maybe I'll just do a quick tour. I don't know, we will see. But as always, if you do enjoy the video and you want to see more content, please do like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment down below, let me know what your favorite and least favorite games 2025 were, whether there's things I don't mention that you'd like me to pick up on in the future. Everything will be chapter marked. I do just want to take a second at the start of this video to just talk about 2025 as a whole. I'm not sure if I've actually done this properly the last couple of years, but it feels right to do it this year, because this year did not go the way I anticipated at all. It's been a great year. There's been obviously some highs and lows, like everyone can say, but I think on the whole, generally, it's been a brilliant year for me, end to end. I've really enjoyed a lot of the stuff that's happened. I've had some great opportunities. I've played a lot of fun games. I've done a lot of things outside of content creation generally. And it's funny looking back at 2024 because, well, I made this promise. This is the start of a new era for Red Archer Live content, that being 2 videos a week, one being non-Payday and one being Payday. Maybe it will be less than that on certain weeks, but that's the goal I'm setting at the start of this year, and hold me to it. I want to see how well I stick to it. Yeah, that was a really stupid thing to promise, because that just never happened, and especially because a couple of weeks later, I quit the Starbreeze partner program, which really was not how I expected 2025 to begin. We'll talk about Payday 3 when we get to it, but I definitely have reached a point this year on YouTube where I've learned to take a step back, to not let it rule my life, and to not be constantly promising things that I just can't do. It's become quite clear that obviously I have the best of intentions and I really want to be able to put out as much as I can, but my focus just isn't always on YouTube. I've said this on streams before, but I definitely have some very strong suspicions, shall we say, of a particular ADHD-ish angle to my brain where I will be really keen on doing something and then just won't be able to put the effort in, or will have my effort focused somewhere else. It's happened for a long time, and I've just kind of made peace with it this year, that I just have to balance my interests a little bit better and stop over-promising things that just aren't going to happen. Just enjoy life and not overthink it. Sounds cringe, but it's kind of the way that it is. And I think in the process, I've come to really enjoy just talking about things, whether it be on Twitter, on Instagram. I think it's been my most reliable personal platform for social media recently, so please do go follow me over there if you want. I'd really appreciate it. I'd like to build that page up in particular a little bit more. But also on YouTube, you know, like, I'm not going to promise anything going into 2026 because I just want to make videos when I feel like it. I don't know how much of them are going to be Payday. Again, we'll get to that later, but I definitely want to try and do more videos for the fun of it. The Expedition 33 video is one of my favorite things I've done this year. I really enjoyed putting that together, and I want to do more stuff like that. So stay tuned. I'll try and put more together on that in the future. I've got some ideas I'd like to do, but as always, like I've said now, there's gonna be no promises. I will put stuff out when I'm ready to put it out. And as you'll also notice from a lot of the games in this list, 2025 was the year where I just stopped caring about how much I loved Sonic the Hedgehog, because I've loved him for 20 years. I've been playing video games now for 20 years. Christmas just gone, which is kind of crazy. But I don't know why, I just never talked about it as much as I could or possibly should have done, question mark. But since Sonic 3 came out in theaters last year, any inhibitions just disappeared. I played a whole bunch of Sonic games that I hadn't played or finished and caught up on, so you'll see a lot of those throughout. But I think that was also just indicative of who I've become as a person this year. Now more than ever, just not really caring what anyone else thinks, and just doing what I want, how I want it. I think it's the best way to be. And on a slightly unrelated note from the gaming side, but something I'm incredibly proud of that finally got revealed after a couple of years keeping it a secret. If you're at all a fan of Doctor Who, there's a very high quality fan film series called DW 2012, who I've befriended the creators behind. The team behind that channel is incredible, but they decided to cast me as one of the doctors in it, and I got my very own Christmas special that came out on Christmas Eve. The response to it has been utterly incredible. If you are one of the very few people I assume on this channel who have gone over and watched it already, thank you very much. But if you want to see my hand at acting, feel free to go and give that a look. I'll also link that in the description too, because I'm very proud of it and would love to see more people check it out. But with that being said, let's get into the list of games. Some, as I said, are going to be very quick, some I will spend more time on. I'm basically going to chronicle everything I played in roughly the order I played it this year, so some release dates won't line up, but we're doing it as kind of my personal, journey perspective, my takes on games, so it's going to be the order that I played a lot of this stuff in. So if it seems a bit disjunct on release dates, that's why. And start, as I've pretty much teased, we mean to go on with Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. Mentioning this for no other reason than I need to remind myself to play more stuff on the PlayStation PlayStation 2 emulator I have set up, but also just felt kind of poetic that the first game I played this year was one I played before realizing what Sonic Racing Crossworlds would become, and it being one of my favorite releases of the year. Just felt kind of poetic. And also it's a really good game. It's incredibly underrated in terms of like the Sonic Racing games. Everyone talks about Riders, people don't talk about Zero Gravity much, and I think it's better. Hot take. But the first big one was another Sonic one, sorry. Sonic 06, or Sonic the Hedgehog. I've got to talk about this because I have said maybe 20 times on this channel a Sonic 06 video was coming, and would you believe it, the edit is still sat on my computer waiting to be finished off, so we'll get there soon enough. But Sonic 06 is obviously the most infamously hated Sonic game in the entire franchise, the one that sent the whole franchise basically on a careering downward path for 10 to 15 years. And it's very common for people to be like, oh, it's the game that had potential, it's the game that could have done this, could have done that. And having finally played it myself, I have to admit a lot of those claims are very well founded. It's a game that was rushed far too much in development, and you can see it in execution. I actually think the story, despite it being a little bit kind of Final Fantasy-esque, I guess, is like the most clear comparison people make. Quite enjoyable. I didn't see as many plot holes as people spotted, maybe I just haven't noticed them, but I like some of the character and villain designs. I thought Silver the Hedgehog, whose debut was in this game, was utterly brilliant. Love that character now. I just generally really liked that whole vibe of the game, and I'm really sad that they set up some cool stuff, at least character-wise, because the game tanked. They did nothing with it. Shadow the Hedgehog's been floundering until recent years, and then Silver the Hedgehog's still floundering. The best we got this year was a Twitter campaign started by artists trying to get more attention there. But I wanted to mention Sonic 06 because, yeah, despite the bugs and the jankiness and the rush nature of its development, and also the fact that the story gets completely undone by the end, which is a bit of a shame, I think it's a really good game. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it has a lot of flaws, but behind that is a cracking game, especially for Sonic. I think it's vastly underrated. I also wanted to briefly mention Baldur's Gate 3 for the third year running, and for the last time, I assume, because Patch 8 came out, the final big update for Baldur's Gate 3, left it in a really good spot, I feel like. You know, you've got proper full mod support, crossplays enabled now, photo mode that is easily the best and most in-depth photo mode I've ever seen in a game. It's just incredible. My only problem with Baldur's Gate 3 is the same thing that happened with Skyrim and Fallout for me, which is that once mods got introduced, it's just kind of descended into chaos. I load up the game, I download some mods, I have a bit of a fiddle around, and then I don't play the game properly. And I really need to not do that, because that is one of, if not my favorite game of all time. It's debatable now. I'm not sure. There's a couple of other people fighting for it at this point, or a couple of the games, I should say. But I don't want the same thing to happen to that game that's happened to other Bethesda games because of mod support. It's kind of a double-edged sword, at least on console for me. It feels like once that door's opened, it changes how I see a game, and I don't want that to happen to that one. So I think what I need to do is maybe limit the amount of mods I've got and actually really commit and do a full replay next year, because I want to do that anyway. So who knows? Maybe I will be talking about it again next year, but I wanted to mention it for the last big update because it is an all-timer game, and I can't wait to see what Larian does next with Divinity. I also checked out Balatro, which I know came out in 2024, but it was one I wanted to check out, especially after the Game Awards. Just a really fun card game, and really hooked me for a couple of weeks there. It was one of those ones that sucked me in for a little bit, and then I just kind of moved on from it. But I think it's a really fun little roguelike card game, and if you like those kind of chill games with a nice little bit of background music and you're trying to just do a bit of gambling adjacent but not really gambling, it's a fun game. I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to mention that too. Who's up for another dose of Sonic? Well, tough, because you're gonna get one, because I replayed Sonic X Shadow Generations this year as well, and I just wanted to reinforce my comments made on Shadow Generations last year. I sit at a firm 7 or 8 out of 10. I think the story is really good in that game. I like it more having replayed it. Shadow has not been that interesting for about 20 years, but I gotta be honest, I stand firm in the fact that I don't like 2D levels very much in 3D Sonic games. I like modern games to feel modern, and I often feel like the 2D stuff just brings the game down. Not to mention the fact that in Shadow specifically, you've got 3D, 2D, and then 4 challenges, then you proceed. The pacing in that game is just not good at all, because you really want to get hooked on the story, then you're off smashing balloons and collecting rings just to try and get to the next boss. Really lets that game down, because other than that, it's utterly fantastic. But it's reinforced even more by the fact that I finally actually played and completed Sonic Generations, because I'd never done that before. And the same problem is completely true. I just did not vibe with the 2D levels. I think I'm just on my own on this, because a lot of people look on Sonic Generations fondly and say that it's the best time that 2D is handled in all the modern stuff, but maybe that just makes me confirm in my heart of hearts that it's just not for me. I will play a 2D Sonic game if it's meant to be a 2D Sonic game. There is another one of those later down this list, but it's just not for me. And also, the final boss, atrocious. Ooh, not a fan of that at all. So yeah, Sonic Generations, I think if I ranked my modern Sonic games, it would end up quite low, which I think is the complete opposite of most people's lists, but that's the beauty of opinions, right? We're all allowed to be a little bit different, and if you don't like it, you don't have to watch. Because for me, Sonic Frontiers is still my favourite modern Sonic game. Replayed that this year. I've already waxed lyrical about it in the past and talked about how amazing it was, especially in 2023 when I talked about the Final Horizon update. One of these days, I will talk about that game in a video. I really would like to. Maybe once Frontiers 2 gets officially announced, that could be a good cue to do it, but I adore that game. Best Sonic game I've played, definitely worth checking out. First up on my list, though, of games that I need to play more of this year and didn't is Oblivion Remastered, because this was my chance to get into the game. This was my chance to really see what Oblivion had to offer, and I barely played it. Just from a technical level, it looks far better. It plays very smoothly. I enjoy what they've done with the visuals there because I got out of the tutorial and ran around a little bit, but I haven't done too much there. So I've heard really good things about the game. I do need to get around to it. Hopefully at some point soon, I will. Now also seems like the right time to mention Fortnite briefly because there are a few different things that happened this year with Fortnite, but I feel like this might be one of my favorite years the game's had. You know, the Star Wars mini season, despite some people not loving it, was one of my favorite things. So I did some really fun updates for stuff, even things I wasn't as interested in, like Hatsune Miku. The vibe around that was incredible. They aced the K-pop Demon Hunters crossover, a film that I utterly loved this year. That's a whole other thing. Although I'm still waiting for extra content, like some of the emotes that were leaked. Where are they, Epic? But I will say that Winterfest 2025 is the worst they've ever done. I have no idea what possessed them to stop you stacking presents so that if you go away for a few days and come back, you can't claim all the presents you missed. Really stupid decision there, but also just generally the winter season for Fortnite this year has been really lackluster. The year overall has been really strong for the game. The final update for Chapter 6 was incredible, but yeah, I just not a big fan of how it ended this year. Overall, it's been good, but hopefully next Christmas will be a bit better. Another game joining the list of games didn't play very much, Elden Ring Nightreign, which I bought honestly because a couple of my mates were getting it and it was a 3-player game, so I thought, why not? I'll give it a go and check it out. They have constantly protested to me that I haven't played this game enough and that I need to play it more. I feel like I've got enough of my fill from it because I just don't think it's for me. I think it maybe tells me that Elden Ring might not be for me either, although maybe the games do play a bit differently. Any Elden Ring fans in the comments, please do let me know, but I wasn't too sure it was hooking me. Maybe I'll come back to it at some point because my friends are still playing it and still wishing I was playing it with them. Maybe I'll bite and give it another go and maybe I'll change my mind, but who knows. One thing I do know though is that I will probably never ever play the worst game of 2025 again, Mindseye. This was just kind of crazy because the way it was like advertised by trailers and things like that, I thought this was going to be a really good game. I was really intrigued by it. One of the main minds behind a lot of the early GTA games, Leslie Benzies, running his own studio, making his own GTA-like game. That should be an easy recipe for success, you know? Like Payday 3 coming out and it following 10 years of Payday 2 updates. That's an easy recipe for success. But sometimes in this industry, as we've seen, it don't work out the way it should or that you might expect, and Mindseye is a definitive example of that. Once again, there's a live stream for this, but utterly terrible performance. Don't know what the game was trying to be. It's like it was trying to be a new everything platform like a Roblox or a Fortnite, but you gotta start strong with that kind of thing, man. You don't put your worst foot forward, you put your best foot forward, and they really did not. It's one of the most forgettable, unenjoyable, bland, and poorly optimized games I've played in a very long time, and I don't talk about optimization much, so if I'm pointing out, you know it's not great. An utter disappointment on that front. Not a fan at all. Next up on the Sonic the Hedgehog hit list, because yes, we ain't even close to done yet, is Sonic Superstars, which I'm glad to talk about in this one because when it did release in 2023, I said I hadn't played enough of it and then I wanted to go back to it. And now that I have, I like this game a lot more. I think its biggest problem is that it is just too challenging. There are some bosses that are just unfairly hard, even for a classic Sonic game, because classic Sonic games have a habit of having bosses that might make you want to pull your hair out at times because they're a bit challenging, but it just felt like a very consistently repeating thing in this game. Mechanics that were far too challenging for their own good, bosses that were not really doable at all. Supposedly the big final boss for the game is also just the most unfair thing in existence. I didn't quite get there. You have a main story to play and then one of the new characters, Trip, they have their own story replaying through all the games, different times a day, that kind of thing, like Encore mode in Sonic Mania. And I've got through most of that, but I've been struggling with some of the later zones a lot, and I kind of don't want to get to the end of the game and see a boss that I know I'm probably going to hate and have it ruin my experience. So I'm kind of happy clocking out where I did with that and being like, yeah, I enjoyed this game a lot with the time I spent on it. Maybe leave it there. I really like the animation style they chose for the 2D game in hindsight now, and I'd love to see another game like that if they tone down the difficulty slightly, but I don't believe it performed very well, so I'm not sure we will. You might not expect me to talk about this, but I also just want to put it on my radar as a reminder for myself, if nothing else, that I did try the new Skate game because I didn't grow up with these games. The most I had was Tony Hawk's Underground 2 on the PS2, and a lot of that was for building your own skate parks because I just loved letting my imagination run wild while listening to Frank Sinatra singing in the background. I've always been a weird kid, what can I say? But I wanted to try this out because, again, I had a friend who was interested in playing it, and our friend group got together and played it a few times. It definitely feels a bit bare bones. There's not much to do in the game, at least that I've seen at first glance, but it certainly seems like a really interesting sandbox for what could be a really fun game that I could keep coming back to. Could really get me into that genre of games in a way I've never really been in the past. So I'm kind of putting it here as a note to self, because when I do watch this video back, because I like to watch these videos back in the future, I like to reflect and go, has my mind changed on certain things? That's one I really would like to kind of talk to myself about in a weird way and be like, has it changed? I don't know. We'll see. I also do want to talk about Hitman World of Assassination because I don't know if I've talked about this in one of these videos before, but it's been consistently fun to go back to every single year, whether it be for game updates or not. But in particular this year, we had the release of the James Bond Elusive Target. Mads Mikkelsen came in to play his character from Casino Royale in Hitman. Again, I streamed it. Utterly incredible. And I just wanted to mention it because Hitman 3's been, or Hitman World of Assassination, sorry, has been quietly getting updates for a long time now, and it's just been a constantly satisfying game. They add something in, you go and and play it. I feel like you always have a good time when you go back and pick up that game, and I just think it's worth mentioning, especially with James Bond First Light coming up very, very soon in 2026. I'm really keen on IOI's method of gameplay, and James Bond looks like Hitman going loud, which is what I do a lot anyway in Hitman, so I'm excited for that, especially not as a very big Bond fan. I'm intrigued to see where they go with that. And I'm also now realizing that by the time this video goes out, the M&M event is about to be over, and I haven't got around to playing it. Glad I've done this video then, because now I've got an excuse to go do that. Another mini one is that I finally went back to Sonic Adventure 2, and once again didn't finish the bloomin' game, because for some reason I'm a glutton for punishment with this one, where I just pick it up and don't finish it. But I streamed the Hero and Dark Stories on Twitch. I enjoyed them quite a lot. I don't have that nostalgia for those games, so I do see some of the problems and the game design flaws more in them now, because they are, you know, over 20 years old. But I didn't finish the final story, probably the best bit of the entire game, because I got stuck during one of the sections where you needed to have a mask that gave you infinite breathing underwater with Knuckles that I hadn't picked up earlier in the game. It drove me crazy. I didn't stream it again. I meant to go back and do it and then watch the Sonic fan dub for Adventure 2, because I've never fully watched it, and I didn't get around to doing that stream. So that will be a goal for the start of next year. I'm going to make sure I do that as a very early stream and get that done, because I really want to finish that game, and it's a joke that I haven't. But I'll tell you what's not a joke, my game of the year, which is going to surprise absolutely nobody, because it's won every award possible and would probably win movie, music, and everything else in between awards if it could. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Thankfully, I can say I made a video on this. I very nearly did too. Haven't yet got around to the second one, and hope I still do, because I want to do a whole video just talking about the spoilers and the story of that game, because there's plenty there to talk about. But what's fascinating about this game, beyond everything I talked about in that video, which I highly encourage you to go watch, as I said, it's something I'm really proud of in this year, but I just didn't really know where I'd rank it in like my favorite games of all time when I first played it. I was like, it's definitely up there, but I just don't really see it creeping into even like the top 5. And as time's gone by, and I've thought more and more about it and what it's meant to me and what appeals to me and why I like it so much, it just felt like it's been slowly creeping up. Like it's been slipping its way into the upper ranks, and I kind of like that more than, say, Baldur's Gate or Mass Effect or something like that coming along and me going straight away, it's my new favorite game of all time. Because while I do stand by those statements at their different times when they happened, I kind of like that the game's been more of a slow burn in its positioning, even though I've loved it from the start. It's nice for me to kind of, rather than rushing into saying it's my new favorite game, be like, well, maybe it is. Maybe it could be. It certainly breaks the top 5, and if I really had to put everything ranking together, especially given how I've played Baldur's Gate 3 this year, maybe we do have a new top spot. Maybe we do. I don't know. It's just genuinely an amazing game across the board. There are going to be plenty of people now who hear people talking about it and go, I'm never going to play this. It's clearly so overhyped, blah, 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 blah. Honestly, it just isn't. Like, it's kind of crazy that the game is as good as it is. From a gameplay perspective, a story perspective, an art design perspective, music, everything this game could possibly do in almost every single department, it does perfectly. And it's kind of impossible how it does that, given the size of the studio, given the experience of a lot of people in the studio. A success story that will never get tiring to hear. It's just wonderful. It's a hell of a lot of pressure for Sandfall's next game, whatever that is. They've said it will be another Clair Obscur game. Goodness knows what they do. I just really love that we get a game that comes along like this. That just is the epitome of Sven Vinke's speech at the 2024 Game Awards. It is something that is made because they wanted players to have fun, and that was the most paramount thing. I've now also played the thank you update that came out of the Game Awards, and it's just so much fun. Just another reason to love this game. There's just so much to it that I adore, and if I don't shut up now, I won't shut up at all. So let's move on. Because next up is the game that probably would have been my game of the year had it not been, you know, second to what ended up being one of the best games ever released in recent memory, Sonic Racing Crossworlds. Yeah, Sonic game very nearly did it, because honestly, I still stand by that I am so amazed at how good this game is. It felt like Sega really got it right with this one. You know, there've been mistakes and errors in a lot of Sonic Racing games and things that haven't quite lived up to scratch, and there've been some that have been really good. As I said, I love Zero Gravity, and I know the first or the second All-Stars Racing one was very popular, but then when you have things like Team Sonic Racing bringing the name down, it really is no guarantee how good a racing game will be with Sonic, and Crossworlds just feels like it combines everything in one game, and it just works perfectly. It's so good. And I continue to play it. I log in for every festival they release. It's always bringing me back. I think that's the most important with a game like this. It's such a fun kart racer, which is not a genre I play much, but it's just a really fun game. Beyond the fact that it's a Sonic game, because obviously I'm going to be hooked on it from that alone. It's just fun in its very core, and I just love that about it. Definitely my biggest recommend, other than the obvious Expedition 33 mention. Check this out when you can. Pick it up on sale if you need to, whatever it may be. Definitely give this game a go, because it's only getting better, and they've basically already confirmed there'll be more support right the way through 2026. Very much deserved, and I can't wait to see what that becomes. What's that? Sorry, you've not had enough Sonic mentions this video? Surely you've had it. You want more? Okay, sure, I'll give you more. Why am I having a conversation with a camera in my room on my own? I don't know. I really am going crazy. But there were 2 more Sonic games to mention very quickly that I played this year. First up, Sonic Unleashed, one that I have played a lot growing up, but just never finished. Closest I got was the PS2 version of the game, where I got to Eggman Land and didn't quite finish it, because Eggman Land is infamously a very challenging area. And I've gone back and picked it up several times since and never seen it all the way through, but since this year, as you can probably tell, I was really trying to fill in gaps in Sonic games as best I could. This was one I absolutely had to make sure I played through, and I can fully understand when people say this is one of the best, if not the best, modern Sonic game that ever released. While I still think Frontiers wins out on that for me, I can honestly see why Unleashed gets as much love as it does. The day stages are some of the most fun Sonic levels that are out there generally. The night stage with the Hedgehog are quite fun, but the combination of the combat and the traversal does get repetitive at certain times, especially in levels that are really long. Beyond that, I really enjoyed exploring them and just getting sucked into it, and constantly hearing the same battle music every single time that I entered the combat. But I also played another underrated one, which was Sonic and the Black Knight, because in the big year of 2025, I bought a Nintendo Wii. It's the only game I played on it, so I really need to play it a little bit more, because I also bought Sonic and the Secret Rings, and I've got a couple of other games I'd love to check out on the Wii. But I just wanted to mention Black Knight because it has one of the best soundtracks in any Sonic game. I also am just a big sucker for medieval stuff. I've got Archer in my username, for crying out loud. While I do think the Wii remote gimmick of swinging the remote to attack everything as you're running past gets a little bit samey, and I don't feel like I'm doing anything different a lot of the game. I'm just constantly swinging the remote and moving forward. There was just something really fun about playing it. I liked the vibe of it. I like the aesthetic. It's a little bit short of a game, but it doesn't outstay its welcome in that sense, and I really enjoy that about it. So if you have a Nintendo Wii, you have an emulator, you want to run it on, or whatever it may be, definitely give that one a go. That's a really fun game that I think should get more love. I also did a full replay of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I've done a video on when it first came out in 2021, so feel free to go back and watch that. I imagine most of the stuff I said in that still completely holds to this day, but I wanted to mention it. I mean, quite a few of these games I played in certain timelines because some of the actors were going to conventions, and I wanted to have played the games and refreshed them in my mind. I met a lot of the Sonic cast this year, which was so much fun that I've posted a lot about on Instagram, but also the Mass Effect cast were going to an MCM Comic Con in London this year, and I was like, I've got to replay the trilogy before that, and I'm so glad I did, because, man, there's an episode of How I Met Your Mother, if you've watched that show, where the main characters decide that every 3 years they have to watch the original trilogy of Star Wars, and I kind of feel like I need to do that with Mass Effect. Like, every 2-3 years, I need to just replay that trilogy, because every time, it's just so satisfying. It's so fantastic, and genuinely by the end of it this year, made me reconsider whether that was my favorite game again instead of Baldur's Gate 3, and then Charlie Cox and Jennifer English show up with baguettes and French music and make everything get thrown into question, so goodness knows what wins anymore. But it's just nice to have so many games where I'm like, I don't know which one's better. I love that. I really do. So if you still have not played Mass Effect Legendary Edition, that thing goes on sale so often for such a cheap price. Play it. For money to playtime, you will very scarcely find a better deal than that game. So worth it, and one of BioWare's best things ever, easily. Thankfully, the next 3 are all new games. Yippee! First off, Arc Raiders. Not one I expected to play, I'll be honest with you, but a friend of mine actually bought it for me because he just wanted someone to play it with and wasn't sure I'd buy it with my own money, but I really enjoyed playing this. Unfortunately, it wound up being another game like Balatro. I picked it up for a couple of weeks and then put it to rest and haven't gone back to it, and I really do need to fix that because, again, I think it's my personality getting hooked on things, moving on to the next one, hyperfixations. I don't think half the time it's down to the game, more so than it is just down to me. But I have very much enjoyed this year seeing a bunch of other competitive shooter games really put Call of Duty to their paces. I will talk about Black Ops 7 in a minute, but Battlefield 6 is one I really wanted to play this year and just did not get around to. But seeing that and also Arc Raiders come out, be better than the Call of Duty offering, and really make Activision sweat a little bit. I don't want to trash on developers' work at all because I know loads of people are putting in so much effort into these games regardless of higher up decisions, but I think it's about time that Call of Duty got a bit of a kick up the backside. I think that healthy competition is really what was necessary, and Arc Raiders really brought that. It's a fun extraction shooter, which is not normally something I enjoy playing, I'll be honest with you. It's not a genre I'm super interested in, but it's opened my eyes to it a little bit more in a way that I've really enjoyed. It was fun to play solo, it was fun to play with friends. The wimpy story mode player in me wants there to be a PvE mode where, you know, people can go in, maybe get not as good loot, but not have to worry about everyone attacking each other, because I ran around a lot shouting, don't shoot. I just would like there to be a little bit less of a PvP element if you wanted there to be, not to remove it, because I understand how much that appeals to people, but maybe a little bit more of a baby mode. I'll hold my hands up and accept it if I pick it, but something like that would have been cool and might have kept me playing for a little bit longer. If you like fun multiplayer games with your friends, that's a really good one from this year to hit on. Really fun. Unlike Call of Duty Black Ops 7, because, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I played the beta for this and was not super impressed with the multiplayer. I only played a little bit of it and was like, yeah, not for me. The campaign, I've only heard very bad things about, haven't played it yet, and honestly, not sure I'm going to, but for me, you probably noticed by now, Zombies was the biggest draw, and this year really has let me down. I'll be honest, even Black Ops 6, the last couple of maps that were added, I just did not like at all. I'm just starting to wonder if maybe this era of Zombies is not appealing to me in the way it once was, which is incredible considering that Cold War was fighting for my favorite zombies in Call of Duty history. I adore that game Zombies so much. Maybe in hindsight, I feel a bit differently now, but there was something so special about that era, and I felt like Black Ops 6 was going to continue it, but I would argue it didn't get better than Liberty Falls, which is a worrying thing to say. I liked Terminus and a couple of the other maps too, don't get me wrong, but I think that nice simplicity of Liberty Falls just wasn't beaten, and I don't think it's been since in Black Ops 7. The most I played of Black Ops 7 Zombies, and I played a bit of it, is the farm survival map. If that's the thing I played the most, that probably isn't a good sign. I think it's a symptom of releasing the same genre of Call of Duty game year on year. It was the same problem with Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and doing it with Black Ops 6 and 7. I don't know what possesses Activision to do this. I'd have thought Modern Warfare 3 would have been enough of a warning to not do that again. Clearly they weren't listening. Now they finally come out with a proper statement that shows they are sweating about it, which again, I don't like from the developer angle because I really hope they don't get put into pressure because of it, but I'm glad they're finally acknowledging that the games just aren't where they should be and that work needs to be done. Call of Duty's not a terrible franchise. It never has been, but it's had some lows, and I feel like in recent years it's had more of them than ever, and I really want to see it get better because I miss talking positively about zombies and Call of Duty in these videos because it just feels like every year I'm feeling a little less positive about it, and I don't want it to be that way. But the final new game of the year, and one that I definitely really want to talk about, is Dispatch, because I don't like this game as much as everyone else does. I like it a lot, don't get me wrong, but I've seen so many 9s and 10 out of 10s across the board here that I just do not agree with. I am someone who's played a lot of Telltale games, a lot of Life is Strange stuff. I love that narrative-driven, choice-based style of game, something that I miss a lot in recent years because we just don't get as many of them as we used to. I mean, Wolf Among Us 2, you okay over there, buddy? What happened? But Dispatch felt like a love letter to them, and I really loved it for that, but there were a couple of elements that I think brought it down ever so slightly. For one thing, the Dispatch minigame, while in its own, objective state, is a really fun concept. I felt at times it overrode the story and the progression of the game. I know some bits story-wise happened within those minigames, but I felt there were quite a few episodes where it was just play that game a couple of times, there's a couple of tiny bits of story, we're done, move on, that's it. But I think possibly the biggest kind of letdown and thing by the wayside that most people probably won't care about is just the fact that I couldn't wander around and explore the world. I realize it's very surface level and it was more just looking at a few things and chatting to a few people if I wanted to, but it was those kind of things that just helped me feel a little bit more like I was living in the world. Whereas Dispatch, it was very much a cutscene game, and there's nothing wrong with that, but compared to other Telltale games and things like Life is Strange that I love, that's an element that really matters to me that just wasn't in this game, and I felt that was a real shame, especially because so much time of the story was taken up by the Dispatch minigame. That being removed as well just meant that I was very much on a career course straight through a story very quickly that we could have had a lot more space to breathe in, because it was very well introduced and set. I love a lot of the characters, some fantastic voice work here, utterly incredible stuff, even from some of the content creators, Jacksepticeye, Moist Critical, some of the stuff they delivered in there was really, really good. But yeah, I just felt like I had a couple of things letting it down. I think for me, I would have liked it if they took some of the time out of the Dispatch minigame to put into the story, but still have the game available maybe as an optional thing at certain points. Like, it forces you to play it maybe once an episode, but the episodes where you have to play it twice, maybe they rearrange it so it's optional to play it, and if you do play it, maybe it leads to better choices down the end, or making, you know, the big Dispatch minigame in the final episode easier to do because you took the time to do the optional ones. Something like that could have been a bit better, I think, but it seems pretty obvious we'll get a Dispatch Season 2 at some point, so we'll see what shape it takes, but it's a nice firm 8 out of 10 for me. I really want this to be a 10 out of 10. There's just a couple of things that really bring it down for me that I just don't utterly love. Finishing off though, we got two last things to talk about, and order-wise I should talk about Payday 3 here, but I'm going to hold off and mention Grand Theft Auto Online because I've experienced a bit of a renaissance with this game in the last month or so. The release of the Safe House in the Hills Mansion update has been a welcome return to form. It is not a very big update. I think there could have been a lot more, especially with returning story character and one of my favorite characters in GTA, Michael DeSanta. That was really fantastic, some of the stuff there. But just something about that mansion update and feeling like everything's coming to a head in GTA Online made me a bit wistful for the 10 years plus I've spent in that game, in that environment, and I spent a lot of time in recent weeks going back, making as much money as I can, filling out my new mansion vault, and I just felt like it was nice to mention here because I really slipped off with it in recent years. I've slowly weaned back into it, and this update particularly has just really hooked me back on. I'm hearing a lot of people hoping the fact that the final update in summer next year will be Michael, Franklin, and Trevor uniting against this new big bad Mr. Faber. Looking back on this next year, I hope that that comes to fruition because that would be a really cool way to end GTA Online, with like a big story moment where everything's coming to a head for your online character. You have a big conclusion that ties back to story mode, a version of GTA 5 that just didn't get the love it deserved because GTA Online became this juggernaut success. It'd be a nice full circle moment to see it all come together like that, so I really hope that's what ends up happening. And then finally we come to Payday 3. I'm really, really sad to talk about Payday 3 this year because I will be honest, when Skills 2.0 came out, which is the biggest update this game has had, possibly the entire life since its release, I was filled with so much hope in my eyes. If you go back and watch that stream, there were moments where I caught myself just being like, I've not had this much fun with Payday in such a long time, and it was so nice to have that moment. And then I put my video out on Skills 2.0, and I watched the community just descend on each other, not because of my video, but just amidst it. I'm at a point where I honestly think that this community is never going to be happy as a whole. Everyone has their own opinions. That's entirely valid. I get that, but that's been true for every game ever. And I just don't think a community's been as depressing to be a part of in recent years as Payday 3's, because no one lets each other breathe. Everyone has their own takes, but they're down each other's throats with them. If you love this update, you're a paid shill, or you're ignoring things on purpose. If you hate it, you're being a Doom poster for no reason. I just think it's a shame that we can't find middle grounds, you know? There's just too much vitriol. And I honestly think that that's a big turning point for me this year, not just because I left the Starbreeze partnership. As months have gone by since I left that partnership, I've watched Payday get a bit more attention again from their new CEO, Adolf Christensen, and thought, wow, maybe Starbreeze will pull it back, maybe Payday will pull it back. Never really been considering going back to the partnership, like, I think I'm good with the distance I have. But it's been nice to see, oh, maybe things will turn around. And yet, I think even though Starbreeze really are trying a bit more now, cancelling Project Baxter, going all in on Payday again, I just don't think the community is going to really respond well enough to what they're planning. And much as it pains me to say it, I honestly wonder if a clean slate is a better move now. Maybe they should just go to Payday 4. I did not want to be someone saying that, but I think if Skills 2.0 can't rally the players together, if it can't get the community to be a little bit more loving towards each other, what hope has anything else this game got? Anything else that gets released now is going to get descended on by hate, even if you get people loving it. I think this is the strongest case of I wonder where I stand next year, because I go into 2026 really not caring much about Payday 3. And it hurts to say, it really, really does. I hoped, especially in recent months, things were going to turn around and hook me back again, but after the way Skills 2.0 went down, I really wonder if this community will ever truly be happy again. And that fun that I had, that excitement I had for the future of Payday 3 was just sucked out, and it's not come back. I know there's supposedly a heist coming out, I think, next month. I really don't care very much. I will probably play it when it comes out. I'll probably stream it. I hope that I'll change my mind and be like, oh, this is great again, but I think this has been a turning point. I just don't think I'm ever going to be as wistful for Payday 3 as I ever was in the past. I think the ship may truly have sailed, but I don't even think at this point it's Starbreeze's fault. Well, it is. The game shouldn't have launched the way it did, and if it had launched the way it could have done, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But current Starbreeze, I'm not even sure there's much more they can do, because I think they are trying at this point, but it may be a case of too little too late. I hope it's not, but there's a sinking feeling, man. There is a strong sinking feeling, which is a bit of a depressing note to end off on the video, but what can you do? But ladies and gentlemen, that is my entire list of games I played in 2025. I know a lot of these were not games that came out this year. I get that. I totally get that. But I think it's nice, especially for me as a creator, talking about other things that aren't Paydays. I've been trying to do a bit more recently, just to not limit myself, not to restrict to certain things I talk about, just to be like, here are things I like and don't like, listen to it or don't if you want. And I like that more. And it means this video, which is now currently at 46 minutes, good grief, is just going to be a nice reflection of me overall and the things that I've done this year. And I really like it for that. So I hope you've all enjoyed the video. If you have, as always, like I said, please do click like. I greatly appreciate it. And click subscribe if you'd like to see some future content from me. As I've already said, absolutely no promises on what comes next and when it comes. I'm just going to do my best to put out whatever content I want when I want to, and I hope that you all enjoy it, because I'm definitely now 11 years on from starting this channel. I'm at a point where I'm happy for it to just be a hobby again. I'm happy for it to just be something I do for fun when I fancy it, and to not get caught up in the stresses of Payday, the stresses of doing regular content. I don't need to do that. I just want to do it for the fun of it. I want to embrace that, and I want to make sure that I'm doing things because I want to and because I enjoy it, not because I'm worried about numbers or anything else like that. Hopefully next year I'll look back and go, do you know what? I did things right, it worked out well, and everything ends up very happy. But I guess we'll see. Thank you all very much for watching, as always, and for your continued support. I've said this before, but the people who watch these kind of videos, I'm so grateful to you guys in particular. Not that I'm not grateful to everyone else, but it's just nice people check out things regardless of what I'm talking about. That means a lot to me, because it shows me you're here for me as well as the things I talk about, and I really, truly value that so much. So please don't ever think that goes unnoticed, because it really doesn't, and I appreciate you all for that so much. So thank you all for watching. I hope you have a wonderful new year. I hope that all the goals you set for 2026 come true. I hope you have a better year than 2025. Whether it was good or bad, you can always aim higher. And I really look forward to seeing where the next year leads and what we get up to and what happens in gaming in every department. I really appreciate you all being here. Lots of love. Thank you for the support all through 2025, as always. And I'll see you all very soon with the next video. Take care.